Hello and good evening. Welcome to Here We Are. This is episode 58. I'm Bobby.
Now I'm Tiffany.
Tonight we're going to talk about our little trip. Like April has been.
And our favorite rocket ship.
Yeah, right. April has been a month of happenings, right? So last episode that we did was Holy Week, like all the events of Holy Week plus all the events on top of it. And then last week we had to take a break because of a migraine and all the travels and things like that.
Wow, that was rude.
It's your cooking.
I thought it was good.
Let me get my tea down here. So look at there. Let me find that camera. There it is. Look at that. Isn't that a cool cup? Yeah, that was a Father's Day present. Thanks, babe. Thanks, kiddos.
You're welcome.
So, man, that came out of nowhere. Raw and unfiltered. That's us, folks.
Wow.
So we had a fantastic time. We needed the break.
Yeah.
Right? Long overdue for an actual break. Took the kids. We did some camping. We did some dirt bike riding. The four of us, and then you and Joshy kind of played and hung out with the Dentons, right?
Yeah, played. That's what I did.
Yeah. But you love it.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we're working on getting Tiffany back on a bike.
By the time all the kids are grown, are old enough to ride, and
you'll be decrepit like me.
Mm-hmm.
I still did it. I hurt so bad, but I still did it. So we had a great time. We left on Wednesday and drove up, got the camp all set up, and like our camper did great. We had no problems with the water heater. Mm-mm. We had no problems. We didn't have any leaks. There was some sweat, and we thought we were going to get dripped on, but no leaks, no problems. Even after a monsoon of a rainstorm.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Even with the rain, that was our one little bit of down day. It worked out perfect. God is an awesome God. Man, I can't say enough about how wonderful God is. Kept our bikes together. Nobody got hurt.
No.
I didn't even hear a report of anybody being hurt out on the trails.
Yeah, I don't know.
Last year when we went, there was, I think, at least 2 pretty good injuries, and like there was an accident on the interstate before we started to come home, but that was not anything to do with where we were and what was going on at the track. So we went to Loretta, Lynn's, and it was the Spring Ride 2023. So Middle Tennessee Dirt Riders, they do this every year, twice a year. It used to be in the spring, and then they've taken it over in the fall because Southern Woods Rider used to do it in the fall, and they've retired. Since Loretta Lynn had passed, they continued the tradition, and we get to continue doing the spring ride, and we have a blast. Now we're working on getting our little guy on 2 motorized wheels. He does okay.
He has an electric one that he does good on.
But we got to turn him loose in the field and start getting him into the woods.
Yeah.
The kiddie track was cool. We're going to post some pictures on our Facebook page so you guys can check that out.
I look like a giant next to you.
What?
Because I have my sweatshirt on under this. So I look like a giant. That's all I can focus.
That's why we wore the riding shirts. It's our ensemble for the show.
Oh, gosh.
And so on the back of my jersey, I'll show you that in a second. Not that I'm passing anybody, but when they come up on me and I've got the trail blocked, then they get to read the back of my jersey. And so, can you see it?
No, turn a little bit more. You're like,
I don't want to put my butt in the camera.
You're not. You're good.
There
All
we
right.
go. How's that?
You're good.
See that?
Yeah.
So they get to see Romans 6:23, and that is me being me, just putting it out there. If anybody's got any questions, they can ask me. What is that? Why do you have 6:23 all over your bike? Why do you have Romans 6:23 on your back? For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. And there's a lot of good things up there. There's a lot of good people. We did have one person or a couple people at 2:00 in the morning on Saturday morning that wanted to run a side-by-side up and down every little campsite road around there. And I hope they were found out. I hope somebody knew who they were. And because MTDR does not play around with stuff like that. That's another good thing is if you trash the bathhouse, they lock it down. You better find somewhere else to use the bathroom and
shower. For the most part, though, everybody abides by the rules. So
most part, but it's a small handful that ruins it for everybody.
Yeah, that's everywhere.
They did have one kid that took his parents side by side and went out by the little pump track into Loretta Lynn's Dude Ranch's grass and started cutting donuts. And when the police showed up, he was gone, took off in the camper. So the actual police showed up to knock on the camper door, and they knew who he was, so they got that situation resolved. But they don't tolerate stuff like that. I love being in a place where they enforce the rules because everybody has this mentality that the rules don't apply to them. You ever been around those folks? Like, they just tell you, don't throw your trash down, don't destroy the place. And then what happens? Somebody thinks, they'll come in and clean up behind me. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I like that they enforce the rules. I like that there's some structure. Maybe that's me being old as I sip my tea.
It's healthy tea. I picked these dandelions out of the yard all by myself. Mm-hmm.
It's good too. A little bit of honey, really good. So, Tiff, tell us about your side of the camping and riding trip.
I feel like my side is all work. All work. It's okay. So it took me 3 days to pack the camper. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just looking at you.
Okay.
Can I admire my wife?
3 days to pack the camper, which I don't like, which I don't mind. I actually kind of like packing the camper. And then a lot of child
I sense
sitting.
griping.
Oh, not griping at all. A lot of child sitting. So Molly actually rode this year. So I had her smallest and Joshua. Mm-hmm. It wasn't bad though. I strapped the baby to me. He is heavy. I think my back hurts worse than anybody. And I didn't even get on a dirt bike.
He's a little bit of a chunker.
Yeah, he's so cute.
He is solid. But that curly blonde hair and them bright blue eyes, and he just looks at me and smiles. Mm-hmm. And I had him, he and I got a little bit of an understanding. Like every time he was in his little playpen, his little baby jail, and we're all sitting around hanging out, talking and joking and everything. And so our campers were facing each other. So Molly and Garrett, Tiffany's sister and brother-in-law, they go every year, and they're the reason that we go. And we have such a good time because we go around them, and our kids all get along well. Nobody's fighting and bickering and
I don't think they fussed once.
I don't think they did. They got a little grouchy with each other, like siblings, separate from each other.
Mostly because they were tired. Because they started early, they played hard, they went hard, rode hard.
Right. So the little guy, he's in his little baby jail, so we keep him from crawling out to the street. But he would start fussing. And every time he'd start fussing and whining, I'd just look at him and go, hey, we don't do that. We don't do that. And he'd just look at me like, you've lost your mind. But he would stop. Yeah. Every time. It worked. And so I got some really cool time with him. I followed my kids through the novice track. through the woods, and it wasn't just some little kiddie route. Like it was pretty technical. I can go with speed. I can ride wheelies. I can jump hills. But with the left knee, my technical ability is lacking because I can't switch back and forth to the left knee. So those switchbacks and the little dips and then the hard turns, some of that gets me. But
all I hear is wine.
Ooh, touche.
Mm-hmm.
But following Sawyer and following Judah, oh my goodness. Following Judah the first time, he had never been in the novice track. He's on a little 50. He doesn't even weigh 50 pounds. And so
he barely weighs 40 pounds.
Right. He's a little guy for 8 years old. And he's cutting through the woods, and every little root and rock and
they're big rocks.
Yeah, they are big rocks. But every little thing would just bounce him all over the place. And I'm trying to keep my bike revved up to try to keep from fouling a plug. And, so I'm just kind of on the brake, and just, it did help me a lot for technical stuff because I had to balance a lot. I was slow moving through a lot, but he was bouncing all over the place. And when he would go around a little dip and a curve, he'd just fall over. I'd have to get off my bike, shut it off, go get him up. And he's not strong enough to pick his bike up.
Nope.
So get him up, get him started again. And I'm like, okay, take off. I'll catch up to you. Because, by that time, if there was anybody on us, we'd let him go by. Jump on my bike, fire it up, catch up to him, and then down again. And sometimes he didn't make it 5 feet. He fell over again. I was like, oh, man, you're killing my knee. On and off this bike so many times. And then coming back to the camp, he did great. We get back, and they're like, okay, let's go again. We turn around, start taking off, and going back up the hill after the road crossing, and my bike just right in the middle of the hill. It was done. Spark plug was fouled. I had to turn around, and I had to push it a mile back to camp.
The things we do for fun.
The things we do for fun.
Right.
But I wouldn't have had it any other way. I loved the 4 days that we had to just ride, hang out, spend some time together, and you meet new people. And like, I didn't run into one jerk this whole time. Mm-mm. Everybody was courteous. Everybody took their time. If you felt like you were getting a little bit rushed on the track or whatever, and everybody would just pull over. Mm-hmm. They would get over to the side, let you by, and then take off. And then you might get halfway through, and the little guys need to take a break, and you'd stop. And the folks that you passed, they'd just come cruising right on by you. And it was just kind of a back and forth.
I feel like you're shaking the table because
I can't talk when my hands don't move.
Talk with this hand. Just don't hit my
leg. So let me think. The rainy day.
The rainy day was fun. Like, it was good because it was in like the halfway point, so you got to rest. Mm-hmm. Everybody rode that morning, but then you got to rest. We
rode that morning, and it started raining while we were in the woods.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, we're in the woods. It's not going to be that bad. It would really have to come a downpour to start really soaking the trails. But about halfway through, like, the novice track is like 4 miles, roughly, give or take. And about halfway through, I was like, why am I getting so wet? And I mean, the rain was coming down.
It rained a lot.
It did.
But it was good because
it was fun. It's the most fun I've had on a dirt bike, other than being wet and pretty chilly. Mm-hmm. Like, I've always said, it's a dirt bike, not a mud bike. But it was so fun because, I mean, you just slip and slide and just throttle it out.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know that because we have to get you a dirt bike.
Dude, I don't need a dirt bike. I had a dirt bike.
We got to get you back on it. Because that way you can follow Josh while I follow Judah.
Okay.
See, it's a deal. She agreed to it on camera. So we will post some pictures. There was literally no phone service. I think
that's my favoriteest.
I think they have cell phone jammers.
Because they do. Because all of a sudden last night my phone, because they want you to buy the Wi-Fi, but all of a sudden last night my phone started working and notifications started blowing up, and it worked all day today.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, but that's my favorite part, because you can't, like, you have this habit when you sit down and you're like, have a second.
It's everybody's habit.
Right, but you just don't. I mean, and I'm sure there's
pick it up.
Don't know when to start. So Bobby will just start scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and laughing at videos, and then there's no stopping point. So there was literally none of that this weekend.
And it's tricky because there's no concept of time. Like, by the time you get to the second or third video, you're sucked in and you're like, okay, that's funny. What's the next one? What's the next one? And it's just thing after thing after thing. And it captures the short attention span, and it captures, oh, well, it ain't been but just a few seconds. So I can do it again. And I can do it again. But yes, it's a habit. And it was great to not be attached to my phone.
Like the kids weren't attached to their phones.
Now, Jacob paid for the Wi-Fi for himself.
But he didn't just have it in his hand.
He didn't just stay on his phone the whole time. So that was good. The kids weren't asking, hey, where's my phone? Hey, where's my phone?
Other than bedtime and the half of the rainy day, they were outside.
Yep.
From sun up to we made them go to bed.
And the hard part about the rain was trying to get our stuff dry. Everything that got soaked, just trying to keep everything outside dry and things like that.
Well, luckily the next day it was sunny. So.
Yeah. So we had a blast. I can't say enough. I'm kind of sad that the weekend's over.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow I'm going to have a case of the Mondays. Many of you can relate. I can guarantee it. Tomorrow I'm going to have a case of the Mondays. And then I'm going to be stuck thinking, man, 8 o'clock driver's meeting. And then by 9 o'clock, breakfast is done and we're getting suited up, getting ready to get out on the trails.
Yep. Not tomorrow, baby.
No.
You'll be at work by 8 o'clock. You'll be at work a couple hours. At least.
Yep. At least.
Oh, well. Real life happens.
Oh, rum.
That's what it is.
So, what else we got, Tiff? I did want to share something that I saw on social media and, to kind of bring some awareness and stuff, but I haven't got permission yet. So I'm trying to be respectful and gain the permission first. So hopefully maybe this week I can share that, or it may be on next week's episode. It's just some things that are going on in social media, some things that are going on with some of the platforms and some of the options in there. So I will be touching base with you on that as soon as I get permission. But I don't want to say too much because I don't necessarily want to put it out there too soon. Mm-hmm. But do want to do a little research and stuff on that too. Just keep your kids safe. I do want to say, if you got kids and they're on social media, monitor what they're watching, what they're looking at, and who they're talking to. That's not being controlling. That's being safe, because there's a lot of creeps out there. There's a lot of weirdos, and there's a reason why there was a show called To Catch a Predator. There's a lot of things going on. There's too much accessibility to your children, and there's too much that they have access to themselves. So please have an understanding with your children, because you pay the bill and you can shut it off. If they don't like it, they won't let you look in that phone. Shut it off, because you got to keep them safe. They're not adults, and they're not ready for adult things. So that's my serious part of this show. Just seriously pay attention to what your kids are involved in, who they're talking to, and what's going on in their lives. That's not being overprotective, and that's not being weird. That's being a parent and not their friend.
Yep.
Any last words on that, Tiff?
No, I'm just ready to go to bed.
Okay. So, we're fixing to shut it down and get ready for our Monday. So thank you folks for watching. Hello, Stacy. I see you there. Thanks for watching. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you for the messages, and we'll do this again. We hope to see you next week. And until then, God bless you. We love you, and have a good evening.
Bye.